Conference with Coach O'Brien. We're going to start with questions from here in the media room, and then we'll take a few questions from the phone line. So please raise your hand, and we'll bring a microphone to you.
Hey Bill, how concerned are you about replacing not just the guys on the field, but leadership-wise from all the seniors that you lost from last year?
I wouldn't say it's a concern. I think it's more that every year is different. And so there's definitely a group of guys from last year's team that played a lot of football for us. John Urschel, Carson, Adrian Amos, that certainly have leadership ability and were part of that leadership team last year. So now it's time for some of those younger guys to have a good spring practice and work hard and help us in that role too. So we'll see how that develops. But this year is a different year, and I think we've got some good guys coming back that played a lot for us last year that will be good leaders for us.
Coach, take us through the process. When you had so many guys, at least 65 guys on a scholarship,
Right.
And I'm assuming during spring, you're trying to fine-tune things with every guy. Take us through the process of making sure that work gets done with so many guys. You know, this guy's got to work on, I don't know, maybe throwing motion or something.
Right.
Each guy's got a different thing.
Right. Well, each coach, so right after the season, we went out on the road and we were recruiting. But in addition to recruiting, what each coach was doing when they had free time, which is really on the weekends, or a dead time in recruiting, is they were evaluating their own players from the previous season. So they went through and they watched every game again, and they evaluated all the guys that are coming back for us this year. And they went through it, and we have a little sheet that we draw up that basically it's things they did well, things they did poorly, and things they need to improve on. It's very simple. It's a simple sheet, and then when the guys get back from winter break, we go through that sheet with them so that those guys know whether it's something they can do in a weight room or conditioning, or when we start spring practice this afternoon, what they have to do to improve. So it starts there with the assistant coaches, and then spring practice is very much about fundamental football technique, individual technique. How can Allen Robinson improve the way that he runs a comeback, or how can Adrian Amos improve the way he plays man coverage, and so on and so forth down the line. And that's really part of spring practice. That's why we have a lot of individual period in the beginning and then some team periods at the end, a little bit different than the season. But that's somewhat of the process. It's a long process, but it's an ever-evolving process too.
Hey, Bill, can you talk about what has you most excited going into spring practice, what you're most looking forward to seeing, and also on top of that, maybe what one or two of your bigger concerns are?
Well, I'm just excited to be off of the banquet circuit and back on the field coaching. Although I had a great time at all of the banquets, especially the Maxwell Award banquet was just a phenomenal night for Penn State, and it was just a great night. But really, at the end of the day, what we all love to do is coach and be on the field and watch these guys improve from day to day. We really are fortunate because we work with a bunch of really good kids that work hard, that compete, and so really the biggest thing is we're just looking forward to getting out on the field coaching. Then, personally, I'm looking forward to watching the quarterbacks, how they progress every day. I'm looking forward to watching the defense, how they progress every day with different things that they might be trying. I'm looking forward to watching all the different position battles at running back and tight end and defensive line and linebacker. So just all the different things that go into the competition of the football team.
Hey Bill, I was wondering, how do you see the linebacking core kind of, there's going to be obviously Hodges and Mowdy gone. How do you see them kind of stepping in for those guys? And then secondly, with Mike Cole, obviously linebacker, he played a lot of roles though for you last season. Do you see him continuing to do that, or will he, since he might have to have more time at linebacker, just kind of, be more traditional?
Well, we don't have a lot of depth at linebacker. That's for sure. We have, guys there that played a lot of football for us last year. Glenn Carson, Mike Hull. Naeem Wortman didn't play a lot. He got injured, but we think he has a really bright future. Ben Klein, he won't be in the spring, but we think, we know that he's going to help us in the fall as a special teams player and then fighting for time at linebacker. So I'm just really, I'm looking forward to watching Hull, Carson, and Workman play together. You know, because again, those are three guys that didn't really play together that much last year. You know, like you said, it was Carson, Mowdy, and Hodges, and you know, all three of those guys have had excellent off seasons. Glenn Carson and Mike Hall have really worked hard. They're leaders on this football team. They're tough guys, good players. And then Naeem, you know, I think he worked very hard this off season, and we're looking forward to seeing what he can do. But there's certainly not a lot of depth there, so it's going to be you know, imperative for myself to monitor that and make sure that we're not, you know, giving those guys too many reps.
You mentioned that you're personally looking forward to seeing the quarterbacks develop throughout the spring. You obviously didn't have a quarterback competition in New England, and last year Matt kind of took over pretty early. What's it like for you as a coach when you have a competition? Is it fun for you? Is there some anxiety seeing the guys go through everything day after day?
It's fun when you're working with the type of guys that you're working with right now. We have a very smart room, a hungry room. They're young. They listen. They ask great questions. They really want to be coached. So it's going to be really fun to go out on the field and watch these guys practice. You know, Corey, you know me now for a while. You know, I don't feel a lot of anxiety over things like that. You know, I just, with this position battle, we're going to let it play out. And, you know, at the end of the day, we're going to have to obviously name a starter. And, you know, I'm not into alternating quarterbacks. I'm not saying that we'll never do that, but not really a big believer in that right now. So, you know, we'll let this thing play out and go into training camp, and we'll see what happens. But these are young guys that are very talented guys, and it'll be fun to coach them and watch them progress.
Okay, Bill, quick follow-up. Wortman will be available this spring as a full guy?
Yes, Gerald. Yep.
And then
The two guys that so you've got Ben Klein that can't participate in spring because of a shoulder deal, and then you've got Kyle Carter that'll be non-contact, and you've got Stephen Obang will be non-contact. He had a shoulder deal. And you've got Adam Brenneman, who will be full go in the spring, but we're really going to monitor him early on here because he's a young guy. He's coming off of a knee, and we just want to do right by him from a coaching standpoint. But he's going to be out there. And basically, everybody else is ready to go. And the other thing is, sorry, Gennaro, but Miles Diffenbach is a guard. I don't know where, maybe it's a misprint on our roster, but he's a guard.
And then I guess at this point, I mean, how much can you say how the transition is going to Coach Butler on defense, and then how much of a learning curve you anticipate the guys having in the spring?
Yeah, well, you know, the foundation, the terms, the language of the defense will stay the same, so I don't think that'll be a big problem. John, you know, he's an excellent football coach. A lot of you guys have been to practice and watched him coach. He's very detailed, he's intense, he's a quick thinker. He's done it before, albeit not at Penn State, but he's run a defense before. He's just a very bright guy. I really enjoy coaching with him, and he's going to do a really good job for us.
Bill, you talked yesterday about understanding the skill set of the team a little bit better, just what everybody's capable of. Running backs caught about 12% of your passes last year out of the backfield, more or less. You add a guy like Lynch, you lose Zordich. Can you talk about what you want to do with running backs this year offensively, and a little bit about that competition over there?
Yeah, I'd love to be able to tell you exactly what I want to do with the running backs, but that'd be awful stupid of me to do that. So I'll just tell you exactly what I think about those guys. I think all three of those guys can catch the ball. I think you've got three very, very different skill sets in the fact that you've got Zwinak, who's just around 235, 240 pounds, big, tough kid, very strong guy, had a great offseason in the weight room. Then you've got a guy like Billy Belton, who's not quite as big as Zwinak's, got good quickness, can catch the football. He's lost some weight. He's in better condition. We're really looking forward to seeing what he does. And then you've got Akeel Lynch, who had a tremendous offseason in the weight room, improved his speed, improved his conditioning level, and he's somewhere in between size-wise and all those different things I talked about early on between Zwinak and Belton. So he's a little bit of both. So it'll be fun to watch those guys, and then we'll have to especially me, I'll have to do a good job of putting them in the right spot to take advantage of what they do best.
Bill, who will step in for Jordan Hill, James Terry, and at that defensive tackle spot? Those guys played a lot of football for you last year.
No question. DeQuan Jones, we think, is a really good player, and we think he's had a really good offseason, and he's in good shape. He's strong. We're going to have to monitor his reps this spring, because he's played a lot of football here at Penn State, but we really, have high expectations for him going into next year. We got Kyle Baublitz, who's a veteran player that played, had a lot of time last year as a backup player, and he'll be in there. He'll play a lot this spring there, and he'll play a lot next year. Then we've got some younger guys there, Austin Johnson, who we think has a chance to be really, really good, player, and hopefully sooner rather than later. But he's had a really good offseason and comes from a great family. He's just a really good kid. We're really, glad that he's on our football team. We think he can have a bright future. Then we've got Derek Dowry and Brian Gaia, two tough guys that gave us a lot of problems on the scout team last year. I remember Matt Stankiewicz last year after one of those practices, we were sitting around just shooting the breeze, and I remember him saying that Gaia and Derek Dowry were strong guys that could hold the point of attack, and that was good coming from an all Big Ten center. That was pretty neat. So, we feel good about what's there, and again, there's not a lot there, but there's enough there, and we just have to do a good job of rotating those guys in and out and making sure we get the young guys enough reps to help them improve and progress.
Coach, with the defensive ball clarification, who battles for the center job now that Stankiewicz has lost to graduation?
Right, so Ty Howell will be in that mix. He'll be the starter going into the spring there. We've got Wendy Laurent, who will play there too, and we've got Angelo Mangiero, who will be in there. He's got a little bit of a hamstring issue right now, so he won't be there initially, but hopefully he can get out of the tub and get onto the field, because that's where he needs to be, and he'll have a chance to play center too. He'll be in that competition. Then, one of the things people ask me about the offensive line all the time, and I probably need to do a better job of explaining this. So, like, when we go out to practice today, we have a period called specialists. It's 5 minutes before we go to stretch. And we'll have about 6 guys. And during specialists, you have kickers and punters working. You got the returners. Then you have the centers and the quarterbacks doing center quarterback exchange. We'll have about 6 centers. So we teach everybody just about how to snap the ball. We teach Urshel. Urshel can be a center. Diffenbach, he'll learn how to snap the ball, but he's primarily a guard. So Mac does a great job of teaching tackles how to play guard. Some guys play all 5 positions, which is really extraordinary. And so we train a lot of guys to be center, but those 3 guys that I mentioned at the beginning will be battling for the center job.